There it is. You're caught. What the hell did I do? Killed them all, of course.
March 2015. Millions of Americans were watching the final episode of an HBO documentary called The Jinx. For 6 episodes, viewers had followed the strange life of a wealthy real estate heir named Robert Durst. For decades, Durst had been connected to a missing wife, a murdered friend, and a dismembered neighbor. Yet somehow, he had avoided prison. Then came the bathroom recording, a moment so shocking that viewers believed they had just witnessed a killer confess. Within hours, the story exploded across television screens and newspaper headlines around the world. But the truth was far more complicated, because the story of Robert Durst didn't begin in a bathroom. It began more than 30 years earlier, with a woman who vanished without a trace, and a mystery that would refuse to die. To understand Robert Durst, you first need to understand where he came from. Most murder suspects don't inherit fortunes worth millions of dollars. Most don't grow up inside one of America's most powerful real estate dynasties. Robert Durst did. Born on April 12, 1943, Robert was the eldest son of Seymour Durst, a real estate developer whose family empire controlled valuable properties throughout New York City. The Durst name meant wealth, influence, power, and for many people, a future free from consequences. But behind the luxury was tragedy. When Robert was just 7 years old, his mother died after falling from the roof of the family home. Years later, Robert would claim that he witnessed the event. Some family members disputed the story. But regardless of what happened that day, the loss would become a defining moment in his life. Friends later described him as different, quiet, withdrawn, unpredictable. Some said he struggled to connect with people. Others remembered a young man who always seemed emotionally distant. As he entered adulthood, Robert attended college and eventually moved to California for graduate school. There, he met a woman who would become one of his closest friends. Her name was Susan Berman. At the time, nobody could have imagined how important that friendship would become, or how tragically it would end. For now, Robert's life appeared headed in a completely different direction. He returned to New York and entered the family business. But there was another person who would soon enter his life. A woman who dreamed of becoming a doctor. A woman whose future seemed bright. A woman who would disappear forever. Her name was Kathleen McCormack. In the early 1970s, Robert Durst met Kathleen McCormack. Friends called her Kathie. She was intelligent, driven, ambitious. Unlike Robert, Kathie came from a working-class family and was building her future through hard work. She dreamed of becoming a physician. Those who knew her described her as energetic and full of life. The two quickly became involved. In 1972, they married. To outsiders, they looked like a successful young couple beginning a promising future together. But appearances can be deceiving. Over time, cracks began to appear in the marriage. Friends later described frequent arguments, periods of separation, and increasing tension. Kathie's medical studies demanded enormous amounts of time and energy. Meanwhile, Robert struggled with his role inside the family business. As years passed, the relationship became increasingly unstable. According to several people close to Kathie, she confided that Robert could be controlling and unpredictable. Some friends later claimed she feared him. By 1981, the marriage was deteriorating rapidly. Kathie was nearing graduation from medical school. She was only months away from becoming a doctor, and according to several accounts, she had begun discussing divorce. For Robert, divorce carried more than emotional consequences. It threatened his reputation, his finances, and perhaps secrets he did not want exposed. Then came the final weekend, a weekend that would change everything. January 31st, 1982, a Sunday. The last confirmed day Kathleen McCormack was alive. That evening, she unexpectedly attended a small gathering hosted by a friend in Connecticut. Witnesses noticed something unusual. Kathie seemed upset, distracted, not herself. At some point during the evening, she received a phone call. According to witnesses, the call came from Robert. Shortly afterward, she left. Nobody at the gathering realized they were watching Kathie for the last time. As darkness settled over the Northeast, she returned toward her home. What happened next remains one of America's most enduring mysteries. Years later, Robert Durst would provide investigators with an explanation. He claimed he drove Kathie to a train station. According to him, she boarded a train to Manhattan. He said he later spoke to her by phone. And then, nothing. Kathie simply vanished. No confirmed sightings, no verified phone calls, no trace. At first glance, the story sounded plausible, but investigators would eventually discover something troubling. Robert's account kept changing. Details shifted, timelines moved, statements contradicted one another. The more authorities looked into the disappearance, the less sense it seemed to make. Yet despite growing suspicions, there was one enormous problem. There was no body. Without a body, proving murder would be extraordinarily difficult. And Robert Durst knew it. Over the following days, friends became alarmed. Kathie missed appointments. She stopped returning calls. She disappeared from the life she had spent years building. For those who knew her, the idea that she voluntarily walked away seemed impossible. She was weeks away from achieving her dream. She had family, friends, plans, a future. People don't simply abandon all of that overnight, unless something happened to them. And for many investigators, one question immediately emerged. What really happened after that phone call? The answer may have remained hidden forever, but 18 years later, another death would reopen the mystery. And this time, the victim knew far too much.